Bank will not loan you money until you can prove you don't need it. And there's a few angels and others out there that want different things. But debt feels very scary. So it's pretty easy to give up equity. And you'll regret it. You'll regret it. Once you're successful, what seems so easy to give away at the front end and what was kind of needed to acquire talent or other kinds of things, the resources you needed to run a business. And the only thing you had to offer was equity.
Startups with Stu is a podcast for anyone living or wanting to live the startup life, either as a founder or a team member. Your host, Stuart Draper, was a 9-time Inc. 5000 honoree before age 40. This show dives deep into the exhilarating world of entrepreneurship with guests that are seeking advice from Stu for their startup or business owners that want to share their entrepreneurial journey. Listeners always walk away with actionable ideas of what to do to take their startup to the moon. Startup life can feel like a roller coaster ride. And with Startups with Stu, you're likely to turn your roller coaster ride into a rocket ship ride. Get ready to uncover the secrets to startup success from visionary founders and savvy investors who've transformed groundbreaking ideas into thriving ventures.
This episode is brought to you today by PodUp. PodUp.com is the leading all-in-one AI-powered podcasting software. If you've ever considered having a podcast, want to get started, go to podup.com and check it out. I produce my podcast, use a variety of tools and producers that help me get everything done that I'm doing. Podallies.com is the agency I choose. If you're interested in having a podcast, you don't want to do it yourself through podup.com, I highly recommend that you go check out podallies.com and schedule a strategy call with one of their production specialists. They will be able to help you and think through everything you need to before you get started on your journey as a podcaster.
Welcome to another episode of Startups with Stu. We are live at the second Startups with Stu retreat that I've hosted up here in Island Park, Idaho. And I am so glad that we have with us tonight Mr. Corey Smith and his beautiful wife, Cindy. I appreciate you guys making the drive up from Idaho Falls.
Thanks for having us.
Corey is a special man, and usually when I have guests, we get right to work and let them talk. But I'm going to take a minute and talk about Corey and how he's blessed my life before I let him say anything. So Corey and I first met, I was working for a startup. I'd already lost my first 2 jobs since I met my wife, Lindsay. And I was on to my 3rd job, this time doing sales for a property management software company. And Corey was the assigned entrepreneur in residence by Epic Ventures to come and help at this startup. And he and I think we hit it off pretty well. He treated me like he was, like I was a friend and like he believed in me. And I really appreciated that about Corey. The business tanked, and I was out of a job. My 3rd job, I had to go home to my wife on a Friday in the middle of the day and say, I don't have work anymore. Been laid off. They pulled us all in a room and said, you can all go home. We don't have a way to make payroll today. And that was a hard time. But I stayed in touch with Corey, and Corey kind of watched my story as I started GetFoundFirst.com. And one time, I was probably a year or 2 into running Get Found First. My father-in-law pulled me aside after Sunday dinner and he said, hey, Stu, I was talking to Corey Smith the other day, and you know what? He said the nicest thing about you. He said that before you're 30, you'll probably be a millionaire. And I did not dream of myself becoming a millionaire before I was 30 years old. To me, that was unfathomable, and I hoped to be a millionaire by the time I retired, kind of thing. But that's where my headspace was. And so to hear that Corey had that kind of belief in me, that changed me. And then because I'd heard that he'd said such nice things, I was like, I'm going to try to go to lunch with him more often. And Corey and I would get together. We ended up doing more Perkins breakfast than lunch.
Yep.
But one time I took Corey to Scotty's Drive-In, and I said, Corey, I'm onto an idea. If I can write a textbook for business schools about digital marketing, and I'll update it every year. If I can get 100 schools with $100, with 100 schools with 100 students that pay me $100, 100 times 100 times 100, Corey, I'm onto $1 million opportunity. And rather than like kind of laugh at me and say that it seemed pretty pie in the sky, he just showed that he believed in me and thought it might be possible, but I should do some market research. He helped me do the market research, and we started meeting at Perkins every month. And over the course of like a year and a half, we would meet, and I would tell him my updates on my business plan, and he'd just keep sharing ideas and advice with me. And one time after one of those breakfasts, he texted me, and he said, "Hey, what's your home address?" And I gave it to him, and I didn't know for sure what he wanted out of my home address. I thought maybe he's going to send me a cool gift or something. And he sent me a $25,000 check in the mail. And I should have saved it, taken a picture of it, and then a note. It said something to the effect of, you should quit everything else you're doing and go all in on this. Consider this your first money. We'll figure out valuation later, and I'll help you make some introductions so we can get the rest of the money you need. And because of Corey's belief and Steve Crandall's belief in me and willingness to be my first two angel investors, I decided I could do it. Like if they believed in me and I liked the idea and thought I could do it, and I couldn't get the idea out of my mind. I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, that's what gets them going, is they can't stop thinking about it. I could not stop thinking about Stukent and the opportunity that existed there. And so I will be forever in debt. The great returns that Steve and Corey gave me, or I was able to provide for them, those are not enough for the belief they helped me have in myself that I could do it. And I remember the motivation it was for me personally to make sure you guys got a return when we gave you that money. So thank you so much.
Hey, thank you
for what you guys did for me. It means the world, and has literally changed my life. And now the lives of over 1 million students that got to use the technology because we went to work and built it. And the 300 or 400 people that started their career and bought their first home because of the business that we started. It's a really neat thing, isn't it?
It is. It's incredible. It's one of the great success stories of Southeast Idaho.
Just the other day, I saw a picture of the entire Stukent team all together for their annual kickoff meeting. Mm-hmm. And I'm not in it, and that's okay. What's so awesome to me is that this is something that's going to go and keep growing and do amazing things for the world, and I got to be part of starting it. And so did you guys, even though yours was nothing more than belief in me and checks and answering some phone calls along the way. So
can I add a little to that story?
Do it. Hit me.
Stu was someone you could believe in. I mean, you can see how excited you get just by being around him now. Can you imagine when he was young and as a student, how excited he was about life? And you could tell he had the world by the tail. And he wasn't going to quit till he was a wrestler, and he wasn't going to quit till he pinned it. It was easy to invest in Stu. Stu was asked, a part of the story that I remember, the Stukent part, is BYU Idaho asked him to come and teach. And he got involved it was to teach online marketing class. He got there, and he asked for the textbook they were using and the syllabus and all that kind of stuff. They had none. He says, what am I supposed to teach? You don't have a book? He said, well, really, in online marketing, there's just not a book right now. And so you'll just have to kind of make up this course. And that got him going in his mind that, by the time you write a textbook, get it printed, edited, all that stuff, it's obsolete in this fast-moving world of online marketing. But I can do better. And the research we did, I was working as a director at the time it was called the Entrepreneurial Center at BYU Idaho. It's now called the Research and Business Development Center. And we did three studies validating that he had a great idea, that Harvard, nobody had a textbook that was worth anything, and that his idea would resonate well. And one of the things I really want to say tonight is, long time ago, the old adage, and I don't know who you attribute it to, but it has something to do with you never learn to walk by following the rules. You learn to walk by trying and by falling. And I'm a big believer in that. I think all of you as entrepreneurs, you step off the edge a little bit, don't you? But Stu didn't just step off the edge. He stepped off the edge with some pretty good information, with some knowledge, with some validation of his point of view. So this whole idea of it's okay to fall, I agree with that. I just don't want to fall very often, and I don't want to fall very far, right? So I want to be smart about what I do here. And the frequency of the fall is something I would avoid, and the ability to get back up because it's not all that far. Stu validated his point really well. It still took a heck of an entrepreneur to monetize it and to go out there and have the ability to give up everything else in life, which he did financially. And I can remember one of our conversations at Perkins about that. Core, what do I do for a living? I got a family. I got to bring home the bread a little bit. And I'm walking off into this world where there is nothing certain at all. And I think that's the point where the $25,000 check came, because I believed in him and really wanted him to have an opportunity to do it. I've given a few $25,000 checks away, even a couple more than $25,000 checks away. Most of those don't return with a nice profit or even return at all.
In angel investments, yeah.
Yeah, angel investments or even just personal investments. And yet this one did, and it's really easy for me to look at it now and say, I know why it did, and it's because of Stu. You don't invest in ideas nearly as much as you invest in the people behind the idea. Mm-hmm. And Stu was worth every bit of the investment.
I'm so glad that you shared that. I that part about stepping away from the money I was making. At the time, I had a first business, getfoundfirst.com. I had an opportunity to go work for Melaleuca, and specifically side by side sometimes with Frank Vandersloot, who was a billionaire. And that was something that I was excited about because I wanted to learn from someone who was at that level. And if I could rub shoulders with him, who knew what that would mean for me later in life, but I wanted to experience that. So I stepped away and had a managing partner in getfoundfirst.com, and I started earning really good money off of Melaleuca and off of the passive income I was getting off of the first business I had started. And so to say that I was going to stop getting all of that and go back to starting from zero with a new startup was daunting. And Corey had been there and done that. So now we're going to shift gears, and I want to share your career journey. Give us the 1 to 2 minutes on the resume side that brought you to not Walgreens, but to moving back to Idaho Falls.
Back in the drug business.
Mm-hmm.
Done drugs a lot in my life, and all legal.
Pharmacies.
Was always interested in doing about anything I could to make money as a kid. The Kool-Aid stand wasn't enough, so we actually did hot dogs and hamburgers and upgraded that a lot, and all kinds of stuff. Making money, sometimes ethically and often as a kid, maybe not. Walking around the neighborhood collecting pop bottles when there was deposits on those, telling them we'd put our Boy Scout uniform on, tell them we're with the Boy Scouts. And no. Scouts never saw any of that money, but it was somehow that was important to me back then, and always kind of wanted to do it. My dad had his own business, and either scheduled hours or because we were not very well behaved at home when he was babysitting us, I spent a lot of time in that business, and loved every bit of kind of owning a business and all that went with it. Steve Crandall and his father did the accounting. It wasn't a real successful, high money-making business, but to watch my dad's passion for that, his love for the people that he served at that business, got deep into my soul. Went to BYU, got an MBA from BYU, started a career, found out my senior year, undergrad, what I wanted to do when I grew up, and that was brand management. So you had to have an MBA for it. So stayed at BYU, got an MBA, went to and got a job in brand management with the Pillsbury Company doing cake mix. I was a skinny little runt prior to that, and this Pillsbury was a growing experience in a lot of ways. The doughboy lives. It's the real deal, and did some fun things there. Went from
specifically with fun, the funfetti Corey did that.
Funfetti was one of my projects. Came up with the idea and was able to introduce it to market, which was great. Still the number one best-selling cake mix Pillsbury's ever had, and we profited handily from our effort there. We got $2,500 in Pillsbury stock, which then they quickly sold, and they're out. Anyway, I don't remember getting anything for that. So, an entrepreneur for a big company is kind of a tough thing to monetize. Anyway, went to H.J. Heinz in Pittsburgh after that. Did ketchup, did a few other things, did NASCAR racing, and a few things with them. Great experience. And then went to Ocean Spray.
When you say you did NASCAR racing, like Heinz was the sponsor of a NASCAR, or you were driving NASCAR cars?
I have driven the NASCAR.
Oh, okay.
I drove it once, but I was not in the race. But it was Heinz ketchup had a 50+ share everywhere in the country except for the Southeast, and Del Monte and Hunt's were just kicking our trash down there, and we'd spend literally hundreds of millions of dollars, and I'm not kidding, on extra trade deals to Piggly Wiggly and all these other, and it would all end up diverted to San Francisco and Boston. And we just couldn't get our share to grow down there. And our sales manager down there just kept saying, if you just do NASCAR, what does this guy know? He's just a dumb sales guy, right? Well, finally we listened to him, and we just did NASCAR. And for probably $15 to $20 million of an investment in a team and in hats and things, our market share within 3 years was over 50% in the Southeast. NASCAR was a religion down there. And I got to be in charge of the NASCAR program. That's cool. And so we grew the share significantly. Went from there to beverages with Ocean Spray and managed all of their single-serve beverages. So everything 20 ounces and less was my baby. Worked with the Pepsi company as a joint venture. They were our distributor at the time. And worked out of their office for 18 months, jointly developing new beverages. About that time, my dad got really sick. He had a little drugstore in Ammon, Idaho. And so from Boston area, we tried to sell the business for him. Turns out nobody wanted a little drugstore in Ammon, Idaho. And so with my wife pushed me into it. She said, we just have to go do this. Just the opposite. And we moved from Boston back to Idaho Falls, which she's from Los Angeles, so that was not a real great move from the home front. But she's learned to like it.
That's a part of why I wanted Cindy here. It's unique. I've never yet had a spouse of an entrepreneur on the show. So, Cindy, what was that like deciding when your husband said, like, I feel like this is what we need to do?
I was fine with it. I just had a baby, so my mind was just spinning with that and all the postpartum stuff. But I was behind it.
She was very supportive. I knew she wasn't
happy. You
happy.
guys prayed about it? Was it one of those things where you knew God wanted you to do it?
Yeah, and in our religious belief, going to the temple was an important part of our lifestyle. It was 10 hours away in Washington, D.C. at the time, and so we went down there and made it a matter of serious prayer and thought. It was not a random decision, and went back and did it, but took a tremendous cut in pay and lifestyle and career advancements. I really loved what I was doing at Ocean Spray. Just really loved it. I loved brand management.
Okay,
didn't want to give it up.
She has to move from Boston to Idaho Falls, Idaho.
The hardest part was I've always lived within about 45 minutes of a major city. And so here we're going to Idaho Falls.
Yeah.
And so that was a little bit hard for me.
The hardest part was on our third date at BYU, we were laying down in the Smithfield House lawn talking, and she said something to the effect of, and I think this is pretty close, "You're a nice guy and all, but I'd never marry anybody from Idaho." And
here I am.
And then I moved her there, and so it was, there was a lot of backstory there, but it turned out good.
And so
it's a great community.
But you're not only telling her she has to move there, but you also tell her and I'm going to go from making $150 a year as a brand manager to making $60 a year. Is that what you got in pay? Where were you on? I remember you saying that you had to take a pay cut.
Yeah, that was about right. And so I think there were days where she wondered. And then it was, you own your own little business. It was about $2 million in sales at the time. And you're working long hours, right? So you're gone from home. We had 4 kids, and I wasn't very helpful, I don't think, on the home front a lot. So it's, I take my hat off to all of you that are entrepreneurs and trying to start your own businesses. It's not easy. Now, I don't know that qualifies as an entrepreneur. This was an ongoing business. It was a drugstore. It was not something heady like some of your tech businesses and all those kind of things. You know, it was a mom and pop, nickel and dime kind of a business. And so I'm not sure that I've ever really felt like I qualified as an entrepreneur through that experience.
I don't know. I mean, you're picking up and moving across the country. You're buying your dad's business.
No, I'm stupid enough to be called an entrepreneur, but I'm just not sure that the business would be called an entrepreneur. Yeah, all the stupidity was there that fits the description of all of you entrepreneurs.
I like to say that entrepreneurs sometimes have the blessing of being a little naive, but stupid, no. Can't be.
I always had great faith and confidence in his abilities and what he could do. He always took really good care of us, and so
there was a lot of trust and faith that you could. He'll find a way.
I don't remember being doubtful. I mean, it just felt right. It was hard, but.
Did you ever feel like she doubted you? Or
No. She's always been. All of my ventures and all the things I've done. Pick up, say we're moving to Boston. Great, let's go. I mean, she's always been very great that way. I'm fortunate because I don't think many of you are going to find anybody that's going to be that great to live with.
They were great adventures.
They were.
Well, we definitely see you married above yourself.
Well above, yeah. Who said that? Yeah.
Someone already.
Yeah.
I think it's the other way around.
There it was. Yeah. Did you say 10 times above yourself? Oh, way higher. I was going to say I think I got at least a 20x on that.
Yeah. Okay. Taking a quick break from the episode. Sorry to interrupt, but I have to take a second and thank the great team at Pod Allies that helps me produce this podcast. Startups with Stu is not an easy undertaking. It takes a lot of work and team power to get this thing done. So the team I use for my podcast, podallies.com, go check them out. If you are considering a podcast, if you've thought you have a dream for a show and you want to go make it happen, go to podallies.com and book a strategy call today. I promise you won't regret it. Speaking of the show or shows, let's get back to Startups with Stu in this episode. Forgive my interruption, but if you're interested, go check out podallies.com.
Okay, so what was it like getting started? You're buying a family business. Are you okay sharing kind of what that was like with the purchase of that? If you knew the valuations and stuff like that?
Yeah, Steve started with his father about the same time that I came back from Boston, and so and Steve did all of our accounting. It was really more of a business partner for me. He gave me great advice along the way. But his dad had valued the business, I think, at $440,000. But there's a bunch of kids in my family, and I did not want to come back and look like, Dad gave me the business and have the other kids mad, though none of them wanted it, and they all had opportunities. I didn't want it. I was doing it because Dad was sick. Dad had a heart attack and had his first heart attack and had prostate cancer. He had never served an LDS mission as a kid. He was a rebel and felt like he owed the Lord that his whole life. So he was determined that he was going to do that, and the window was closing because of health. And that was the real impetus to getting back there and buying it. Owning a little retail drugstore in Idaho Falls, Idaho had never been my dream. But that's where we found ourselves, right? And so when I came back in, I valued the business a little bit differently, twice as much as what Dad had offered another partner of his, another pharmacist that had worked for him for a lot of years. And the plan was he was going to take it, and at the last minute he backed out because he didn't want the ownership, didn't want the effort that was going into that. So I offered him twice as much if Dad would bankroll it for me. Some of you have probably gone through those kinds of things. It's not easy to work in a family business, but this particular one worked out well. I would say document everything, have a great accountant that helps you, get a really good attorney that will keep track of all the shares passing back and forth and all of that, so that if there is ever a family matter, somebody comes up and says, this isn't right, you got a really nice, accurate trail, right? From an accounting side, from a legal side. Family business, to me, brings a little more importance to those kinds of issues than maybe other kinds of businesses would for me. But I just wanted to make sure that there would never be any issues, family issues. Our family's very close. I didn't want to be the one to kind of break it up with doing something like that. A few years later, we brought my brother into the business and gifted him 10% equity in the business if he would work for us, and a brother-in-law, and gifted some equity for him as well. And so it really was a family business. When it came time to exit, and there was this variation in who owned certain amounts of equity, there were some question marks at that. I was working just as hard as you. I put in just as much time here as you did. Why are you getting 60% of the equity and I'm only getting 10% of the equity? And so there's some family issues, right? That you have to explain the difference between management and operating a business and actually taking the risk and owning a business. And those are still issues to this day. Sometimes we have to smile about a little bit and just agree to kind of disagree on things. So I get it, right? Family businesses can be tough, but it can also be extraordinarily rewarding. My kids all got to work there. Their kids all got to work there. All of Steve's family worked there, I think. All your brothers and sisters for sure. I mean, it was just a great experience owning a little business like this, but it's fraught as well, right? There's some real issues you got to protect yourself against.
Yeah, I really can't tell you how grateful I am that you gave me that advice at Perkins to go get with Mike Andrus, have him help me with the pro forma and getting all of my projections right, and to get with and then to get with an attorney to help me become a Delaware C corporation, because you wanted to invest in a Delaware C corporation. Or maybe I don't know, maybe that wasn't a part of what you were saying.
Well, I just remember us talking about equity. Like right at the front end of your business, you need money. And you're already scared to death because you've taken this big jump off the edge. So to go take debt out, if you can even find somebody that's going to give you debt, banks don't, right? Bank will not loan you money until you can prove you don't need it. And there's a few angels and others out there that want different things. But debt feels very scary. So it's pretty easy to give up equity. And you'll regret it. You'll regret it. Once you're successful, what seems so easy to give away at the front end and what was kind of needed to acquire talent or other kinds of things, the resources you needed to run a business. And the only thing you had to offer was equity. All of a sudden you find yourself have given up an awful lot of what you've earned, right? And I don't know if you felt that way when you sold Stukent, but be really careful on the front end with equity kinds of things. It just feels so easy because you don't owe them anything. If the business fails, you don't owe them anything, right? Because it's equity, it's not debt. And so it feels kind of nice and friendly on the front end, but just be really, really cautious about that is what I would say.
Yeah, I remember you coaching me that I should be a little stingy on my equity.
And stingy isn't a bad word when it comes to that, right?
No, because like you mentioned, the understanding of what you're doing operationally for the business versus the risk of moving your family across country and forking out the money is different.
Yep.
So, okay, I have one last question for Corey and Cindy, myself, and then we'll open it up to you guys for 2 or 3 questions. So if you've got a burning one,
be gentle.
Feel free to hit any of the 3 of us up with a question you guys have. So in your marriage, what have you guys done that's helped you succeed? How many years have you 2 been married?
42.
40.
Be 43 this summer.
You've put up with him for that long, Cindy?
She's a saint.
It's been a great ride.
So what's the secret to success there?
I think, well, we love each other. I think love's at the bottom of it. And I think teamwork. You know, you just work together to fulfill your dreams, and you each do what you have to do to do that. And you give the other one freedom to do that.
So you guys complement each other in that regard, like you had your different things you were contributing, right? Is that what you mean?
I think so.
Let me answer it this way, can I? A few years ago, we got the opportunity to serve a church mission together. And after 30 some odd years of me going to work and doing my thing and Cindy helping raise kids and doing her thing, and we'd get together for an hour on the weekends, and it was you know what it's like. And all of a sudden, we're thrust into a position where we're companions, And we're together 24/7. Larry's nodding his head. He gets this. 24/7 for 3 years. And then you get home from that, and life starts to pull you apart again a little bit. I've got to go to work. She's got interests that she's pursuing, etc. And then you realize, though, you know what? The best time of my life was when we were connected. When I didn't even want her to go to the grocery store without me going with her, not because of control, because I like her. You know, we just enjoyed it and wanted to do that. And it was really hard to not have that everyday exchange after that. She, over that period of time, really just became part of me, more so than we'd ever had while we were raising our kids together and busy. I just love her. And so it hasn't been hard at all. She's a very low maintenance person and very supportive of me. So we've had a great marriage. I'm ready for 42 more.
Me too.
42,000.
I don't want to live that long, though.
Yeah.
You don't want to be here that long, though, is that what you said? Yeah. All right, who's got a question? Raise your hand, we'll throw the mic around. Malcolm. Oh, Tyler's right there. Let's start Tyler.
Tyler's our BYU student.
I am a BYU student.
Right.
Up until April, and then we'll see what's next.
Depends on how they do in basketball this year. Yeah.
So question for you, and I guess for both you and Stu and Cindy, 3 different perspectives maybe, from an angel investor, a startup owner himself, and the wife of an investor. I mean, I think there's 3 key perspectives, but what would be one piece of advice for someone entering the space or trying to go out on their own, whether that's buying a business like you did, or starting a business like a startup?
I think that my most important piece of advice, having interviewed a lot of founders myself, is that the ones that succeeded had family in their corner. Not all of them are married, but of the ones that are married, they had a spouse that was fully supportive and all in with them, that it was the right thing to do and they should go do it. And that, I think, for me, is the biggest piece of advice I would give you.
I think part of it is just having the confidence and the ability to allow your partner to have the freedom to do it how they want to do it, right? Just be supportive of them. And he'd always taken really good care of me, and I wasn't worried that way. But I wanted him to follow his dreams. And if there's some things I could do to help him do that, I was all in.
I'll answer it with another bit of short story if I can. We started a group of friends and I started an angel investor group, the Idaho Expansion Group. And we made 3 investments. We raised a little bit of money and made 3 investments. My history with the venture capital world told me that about 13% of the time you're going to win. And you need to win enough with that 13% to cover the 87% that you fell on. We outright lost money with one, and then one took a job with the company that bought him out, and they bought him out really low so that they could pay him a lot, and so he personally profited well, and we made money on one, and that was Stu. The integrity there is something you can't overemphasize. The one that quit said, this just got too hard. It's just too difficult for me and my family. I just can't do it anymore. Well, he'd taken, that's fine when it's your money. When it's other people's money, that's a hard thing to come back and say, it's just too hard. We had a hard time watching him walk away with our money. The one that ended up taking a job for the company and for a couple $100,000 a year, but we all got 27 cents on the dollar for our investment, that's another hard one, right? So somehow vet out personal integrity and honesty when you're looking to invest with people. I also spent a 6-year stint on the governor's Economic Advisory Council for the state of Idaho with Butch Otter, and was the president of that group for a while. Saw a lot of things across the state. Integrity and trustworthiness is a rare commodity. I'd be so careful now talking to people because for a lot of people, it just doesn't mean anything to make a commitment to you to just walk away from it. And so you have to be really, really careful with that. I don't think it's a matter of strapping them down financially and holding them to the fire and saying, if you leave, here's what happens to you. I'm going to bankrupt you. That's never been the way we've operated or I've operated. But I love someone you can trust and have personal integrity with. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Thank you so much. Those answers were great.
Yeah, I've had, I think it's episode 4 if you want to go listen. Poor young man had 3 different businesses. One of them did over $1 million in sales, and none of them ended up working out. And every time it was because his love life went to the tank. So I've seen it ruin startups. I've seen it ruin careers of people that weren't founders.
I have just one question for Corey, and this is in relation to kind of all of us, but what piece of advice do you have for us? Like, if you can pull one nugget from your lifelong experience, what would it be for us in the stages? Because we're all at different stages, but what advice would you have for us? Just one piece.
It's pretty hard to distill that down without being smarter than I am. And I've never really felt like I had any advice for people, right? I'm still learning a lot myself, and more than capable of making errors. So I'm not sure that I feel very qualified to answer that question. I think for me, the businesses that I'm still involved in, I do it because I love the work. And I think if the old saying by Confucius, at least, is credited for it, if you love what you do, you never work a day of your life. Make sure you're doing this for the right reasons, not just to go follow the money trail. You see some of these folks that get into this abundance mentality, and they're all in it for the money. And that's what's driving them. And often that never materializes. But if you're in it because you love what you do, it always materializes. Come rain or shine. And love what you do. Really enjoy it. I mean, Stu gave it all in because he loved, and he was so good at what he did. And I'd come into his office and he'd say, "Core, look." And he had this board and it had names of schools on it. And he was so happy when he'd get 10 new schools, probably because of you. And he'd get a bunch of new schools up on that board. But he was so proud of him. I could feel his excitement for his business. Love what you do. Don't just, a lot of these guys that I dealt with venture capital and others, they were just chasing the dollars. And their whole motivation in life, go make another one. That was it. And when you do, it's never enough. It's not satisfying. Love what you do. That'd be my only, maybe very sophomoric piece of advice for you.
I met a man that said, "I never worked a day in my life because I've always loved what I did." So it was just fun for him. And one thing that's cool about entrepreneurs is a lot of them, they could run a lot of different businesses and say, "I love what I do." Because whatever the industry, it's getting to do business, it's getting to transact, it's getting to build teams, it's getting to lead and innovate and solve problems. Like if you get excited about that, then entrepreneurship can be something you love in a variety of different industries. I
agree. I'm in the long-term care side of the business now. So along the way in the retail pharmacy business, we opened another one and then saw a need for senior aging and senior care. So and that was maybe more of an entrepreneurial venture because that literally was from scratch, and I'm still involved in that. It's a horrible industry. It's a horrible business. We're not making very much money at all. And I love what I do. I love what I do. I'm going to go to work tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. I just love what I do, right? And I'm going to get greater.
Which is Heartland Pharmacy.
It's now Guardian Pharmacy. We sold majority share of our business this summer to the third largest long-term care company in the world. They're out of Atlanta, Georgia, and so I still own an equity chunk of it, but cashed out some of it, and I work for them now. So I'm working for the man, which is a little weird after years of not doing that. But I just love what I do, right? I love the industry. I love taking care of our customers. I probably never fully retire, right? I mean, as long as they let me kind of keep a couple of days in the schedule, take off when I need to catch fish, I'll do that. Yeah.
Do you fish for fish or do you catch fish?
Cindy can answer that. I often just fish. Every once in a while, I actually catch, and so yeah, there is a difference.
Okay, So people have been asking me, like, what are you doing with Startups with Stu? And what do you want to do next? And one of the things that's come up is this idea of starting an angel fund in Idaho, like you've done already. You guys did the 3. It was a small fund, and then it didn't keep going after ours. Do you think that Idaho's ready for that now? East Idaho doesn't have an angel fund. It doesn't have a venture capital fund. What do you think?
It's been a while since I thought about that. I buried that pretty deep in my past, Stu, and I really don't need you to bring it back up.
It was a dark place.
Yeah. A lot of therapy and counseling has gone into help. No. I thought it was fun. It was stressful for me because of the fiduciary side of that. When we take investors' money and then it's up to us to figure out how to invest that properly and give them a return, was the hardest part of that. What drove us to do that was our love for southeastern Idaho and the desire to see a thriving business community start to grow up here. We, again, partly because of my time on the Governor's Economic Advisory Council and growing up in this area, have a real love for this area. And it's tough to see our best and brightest, our children, go to school, and when it's time to find a job, they can't find a really good job around here. So they end up a brain drain, right?
He literally gave a talk to BYUI students that said, "Get out of Dodge."
I did. And then come back and, work your way back here. But there's just nothing to kind of help these guys to stick.
Get out of Dodge to go get the experience with the bigger, better, more successful corporations of the world that aren't in Eastern Idaho.
And do something good for the world. There's so many of us, if you thought of us as products, there's so many Me Too's stacked up on top of each other in these areas that it's kind of nice to share the wealth a little bit. You'll stand out in the crowd if you go to Boston, whereas in Idaho Falls, you're just one of 100. And so there's some variety there, value now. But there's nothing there. So our goal was help to create a thriving business community in Southeast Idaho. I would say that the group I went with, none of us had done this before. And it would be helpful to have someone that really understands the financial side of that and can take care of the administrative burden that goes along with that. We were all just kind of entrepreneurial-minded guys ourselves. And you can get yourself in trouble with a lot of legal bodies if you're not careful. So, but I'd do it again. If somebody wants to start one, let me know. I'll consider it. I think it's a good time to do it, actually. I think 2020 with COVID really helped a lot of people discover this area, because all of a sudden they could come and live here and still work for their company in California or wherever it was, but they realized the value and the lifestyle of living here. And I talk to lots of people all the time and say, man, we love it here now. We'd never go back. And they've brought with them a sense of community that we didn't have before, right? Some ideas and some push and a little bit of, let's get out of the old mold. And I love it. I think we're primed and ready for some of those kind of things. That's why I think people are being very successful in startups now, whereas before it was hard to even gather capital from anybody. No one came here to Idaho.
There you have it, folks. Corey and Cindy Smith, the pharmacy legend.
Yeah, a lot of drugs. A lot of drugs.
Let's give it up for Corey and Cindy.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Steve. Appreciate it. Thanks very much. Appreciate the audience.
Hey, founders, entrepreneurs, investors, and other listeners of Startups with Stu. Thank you for listening to this episode today. As I mentioned at the beginning, as I mentioned in the middle, I want to take a second again at the end and say, if you haven't yet and you're considering a podcast, go check out podallies.com. They sure help me a lot with the show. And I'm so grateful for all that they do to help me accomplish Startups with Stu and get it out to the world so we can help more founders and take your startup to the moon. Go check out podallies.com and podup.com if you're interested in podcasting at any level.
Thanks for joining me on Startups with Stu. We have big goals to help millions of entrepreneurs. If you enjoyed this show, please take a minute to share it with someone else that needs to hear it, or leave a review. Remember, success is within reach for those who dare to dream big and take action. Until next time, keep pushing forward on your entrepreneurial journey.